everyone! I want to share another theatre mishap story with you today, but this one's going to be a little bit different because I think it's time that you learn about video night. Most of the times when I was doing performances, we ran to the same schedule. We would get into the theatre on Sunday, at which point people would start building the stage. On Monday, we would do our tech rehearsal, which was checking that all the lighting cues, all the microphones, etc., worked just fine. On Tuesday, we would be doing our dress rehearsal, making sure that the full costumes all looked great and there wasn't anything that needed to be changed. And then from Wednesday to Saturday, we would be doing performances, possibly even a Saturday matinee depending on the age of the cast. During this week, at some point, we would have video night, which was a night where the show was professionally recorded and then later made available for us to buy on DVD. Usually this happened on a Thursday, and I think that's because if it happened on a Wednesday, we'd have kind of first night jitters. By Thursday, you're getting into the groove of the show. Or you should be anyway. You see, all my weirdest mishaps happened on video night. To put this into context, the stories that I've told you so far were the time that I looked like I was trying to set fire to the stage and the time that somebody ran into my face. Both of those happened on video night. So you can maybe sympathise with me that I don't particularly want to buy a DVD to remind me of those painful moments. A couple of years after I was in Jesus Christ Superstar, I was in a production of Oliver, and this time I was the character Mrs. Bedwin. Now, Mrs. Bedwin was listed as a kind of principal character, but if you ask me, she didn't seem to do very much. She was just kind of there. She was mostly following around a character called Mr. Brownlow, who had a lot more to say. She was kind of like his housekeeper, I think, if I remember correctly. She didn't really have very much to say in the way of things, but nonetheless, my mum was delighted, and she said, "Are they recording the show again this year? We'll have to get a copy for Grandma." And as soon as she said that, I was like, yeah, sure, we'll get a copy for Grandma. But in the back of my head, I was thinking back to all the really weird things that had happened in the past on video night and kind of wishing that I could somehow record the show and do it on a different night where things would maybe go a little less weird. There was a particular scene in Oliver that Mr. Brownlow seemed to struggle with. Mr. Brownlow knew the whole show, he knew everything that he had to do, except this one line, and this one line kept tripping him up, and he just didn't know what to do whenever it came up. He just had a massive mind blank on what he had to do next. And Nancy, who was also in this scene, she was a very talented girl, but she didn't really know what to do when things went wrong. Like, if she had to improvise, it was something that kind of panicked her. And so, one night of the show, we're standing there. Mr. Brownlow cannot remember his line. He's forgotten it multiple times during this week. And I just said it for him, or I tried to anyway, because Mr. Brownlow's line was, "Did you perhaps know that Oliver might be my grandson?" And so the result was something like, "Did you perhaps know that Oliver might be my grandson, his grandson, Mr. Brownlow's grandson?" And then I think I repeated the whole thing, because what happened was I'd looked into the audience just as I'd started saying this line for Mr. Brownlow. I was very aware that the show wasn't going to go on unless somebody said something. And I just got so nervous about the whole thing. I knew it was video night. I knew that we couldn't stand there for ages just awkwardly standing there, so I said this line and I really mucked it up and my face was bright red for the rest of the scene because I was like, "Great job, Kate. What you said just made no sense." After we came off the stage, Mr. Brownlow said to me, "You saved my life." And that sounds so dramatic, but musical theatre is a dramatic place. Our theatre director was a very dramatic person, so it did feel very life or death, as weird as that is. If you've been a theatre kid, maybe you'll understand where I'm coming from here. But I was kind of shaking a little, my face was bright red, I had no idea what the theatre director was going to say to that. I was like, either I'm in big trouble right now, or he's just going to be glad that the show continues. After the show finished, we'd usually hang about behind the curtain for just 1 minute, and the director would come backstage and he'd tell us what he thought of the show. And he said it went great, and everybody was celebrating, and I just wanted to get back to the dressing room. And then I heard him say, "Where's Kate?" And I was like, oh. So I turned around, I went over to see him. He gave me a massive hug and then called me a lifesaver. So again, this is how dramatic musical theatre can be. That two people had the feeling to say that I'd saved their life just for saying a line. But again, it was video night. The stakes were high, people. The stakes were high. I'm not really sure what the moral to this story is. I suppose if you're going to make a fool of yourself on stage, try not to do it when the cameras are about. But maybe you have a special talent like me and you just can't help it. I still have the DVD of the night that we performed Oliver. And as you can probably imagine, I don't watch it. It's not something that I like to do in my spare time. It was incredibly awkward and it was captured on camera. And yes, there we are. I'm a bit of a klutz, especially when a camera is on. So I hope you enjoyed this story. There's other theatre mishap stories. I'll link them in the end card and in the description. And if you have any theatre mishaps you want to share with me, go on right ahead and share them down below. And thank you so much for watching, everybody. Cheerio. My dog is snoring. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm going to put the mic in his direction. That can just be the outro. See you later.